Hi everyone, we're here at IAFP 2025 in QA's home base of Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm here with Cameron Prince, who is Executive Vice President of Regulatory Affairs at the Acheson Group and also Managing Director of the Acheson Group Canada. So thanks so much for being here today with us, Cameron.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And we're going to talk to Cameron a little bit more about food safety in Canada. So let's talk about a hot topic, the recent tariffs.
Yeah.
What impact have those tariffs had on Canada's food industry?
Yeah. Actually, it's a bit of a complicated question, as you might imagine, whenever you start talking about tariffs. There's no question that it's having a significant impact, but maybe not so much as the way you would think. It's all wrapped up in a bigger picture of Canada-U.S. relations, and Canada and the U.S. have been such close partners for so long, and many of us have family in the U.S. and U.S. folks, so we're very close. And the supply chains and the industrial ties and all of that. So with all the things that are happening, it's become more of an emotional issue. Canadians are not happy. They feel like somebody in the family is really out to get them. So that's a greater context of what's happening, and specific to food. Actually, most foods are covered under the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement, which was put in during the Trump administration, the first one. So, but that is all up in the air, pending the current trade negotiations, which are to culminate on August 1st. Now, so far they don't have a deal. So far, all the food under that, which is most food, is exempt. Whether that will remain is hard to say. I think the uncertainty is causing the biggest problem. We deal on both sides of the border at TAG. So I deal with U.S. clients and Canadian clients, and I hear the angst on both sides. A lot of U.S. clients are used to sourcing meats and all kinds of things from Canada, and now they're afraid that if they rely on that, they're going to be paying a 35% tariff all of a sudden on a key ingredient, and particularly like a QSR restaurant chain could have major impact. So they're looking for other sources. So they may not have lost the business to the U.S. yet, but it's certainly threatening. Ironically, the dairy and poultry sector, there's no impact because that very little dairy or poultry gets exported to the U.S. because there are marketing controls on it already. So it's a price support system, a quota system, and so the government, it's policy from a long time ago. Now that's a target for the negotiations for the U.S. because they think that that dairy and poultry sector is overprotected. That it's unfair that U.S. can't export. There's limitations to how much dairy they can export to Canada. So that's a sore point. Now Canada is in a pretty good position to negotiate because we are the U.S.'s largest trading partner. So if that gets disrupted in any significant way, the impacts in the United States are quite significant. This has driven a Buy Canadian. Buy Canadian is everywhere, and it's successful. Like, Canadians are buying Canadian products and excluding products from U.S. and actually from a lot of other countries, just because we need to support our economy to survive this. So, yeah, it's very trying times for sure.
Well, thank you for providing that context because, like you said, it is a very complex issue, one that we're all following, and things are changing, maybe not daily, but pretty frequently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's great to hear from someone who is boots on the ground in Canada, what the situation really is. What is one trend that you're seeing in food safety and quality assurance that you think the industry is not paying enough attention to?
I I think internal auditing, and that sounds like a boring topic, but it's not. I, I think what's happened is that GFSI, SQF, BRC, et cetera, FSSC, those programs have taken us a long way in the last decade and a half, 2 decades. So I'm not a detractor of those. I think fundamentally they've been a tremendous help. The problem is that as a part of preparation for a GFSI audit, companies have to show that they've done internal audit on their food safety programs. Well, what that becomes then for many companies is, oh, let's take a day and we'll take a few of us and we'll go through and we'll have some documentation, we'll be able to show the auditor. So I think the industry, what they're missing the whole point of internal audit, a lot of companies, that they should be using it as a rigorous review of what they're doing themselves. Because you can't rely on government inspectors to catch everything. You can't rely on a GFSI auditor that comes 2 days a year. You need to look at your own system, and you can only do that through continuous internal audit. So I think it's being ignored, and I think that trend is going to be more internal audit. And we've already helped a few companies in that regard to come in, review their internal audit, make some recommendations so they can do a better job of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that perspective. What other trends are you seeing in food safety in Canada?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones has to do with CFIA. I think CFIA has, and this is just almost incidental knowledge that I've picked up in the last 6 months of experiences with companies and what I'm seeing. I still have connections to CFIA and I talk to people internally, but I'm also hearing the industry side of things and seeing actually much stronger enforcement. There are a lot more inspection observations being documented, and there is a new enforcement policy that very clearly outlines the escalation of enforcement. And I think there's been some complacency in that in the past inspectors would issue what they call a corrective action request, and the industry would fix it, and somebody would come, in most cases, it would get fixed. If it didn't get fixed, then it gets escalated, but that's rare. Now, you may go through that process, the inspector identifies something, you correct it, you document it, but that counts against your record. So when the next one comes along, they look at it differently because there's an escalation. And when you start getting, and it's a 5-year window, so if you start getting 3, 4, 5 of these, when the next one that comes along, it's not just corrected. It's like, okay, you're getting a warning. And then it can go from a warning to they call it a management discussion so the senior inspector has a discussion with the regulated party, and then it can go to what they call AMPs, which are essentially a fine, administrative monetary penalty. And so there's a scale that determines what rank you go in that escalation. And if you've got 3 or 4, one of the main drivers on the level of enforcement is your history. So the number of cars that you had in the past didn't really matter that much. Now it really matters. The industry has to avoid getting those. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves within that 5-year period in a lot of hot water. So I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how intense it's going to be, but I'm already seeing a potential for a lot more enforcement at higher levels.